Hello, 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 everyone. How are we doing today? All right, so today we do actually have an agenda, and let's get started. So for today, we are going to kind of focus on the full moon that's coming up on Saturday, and depending on which type of astrology you're using, it will be in a different place. So let's first of all start talking about the tropical zodiac, which is what it's mostly used in Western astrology. And the way the tropical zodiac works is it's based on the Earth's position relative to the sun and the seasons. And it's based on a fixed zodiac. It's based on the Earth's seasons and the positions of the sun and the vernal or the spring equinox. So if we were looking at Western tropical astrology, our full moon would be in Aquarius. I want to see if I can share this chart here. Pardon me, just trying to figure out where did I do my Western tropical. Okay, here we go. So, and then we're going to look at my chart, and then we can just look at the transits, which will tell us where the full moon is going to happen. I think it's my first day on Zoom. Can't figure out how to share. Share screen. No, that's not what I want, darling. All right, I can't find it. I used to be able to do this stuff and it was so easy. Oh, there we go. Yay, there it is. Okay, so share. Share, baby, share. Okay, so, and then I gotta move this thing out of the way so I can see what I'm doing. All right, so, oops, what just happened? All right, so if you're looking here, we're going to focus on the green on the outside because those are the transits. And so whenever there's a full moon, it's when the sun and the moon are opposite of each other. So this is based on tropical Western astrology with a Placidus housing system. And now the housing systems also are something to take into consideration. So I'm using Placidus, which is what I personally prefer. The houses will become unequal in size. Excuse me, I need to take a drink. So Placidus housing systems divide the chart into 12 houses based on the angles formed by the horizon and the meridian, taking into account the curvature of the Earth. Whereas a whole house system, which is what is used in like Vedic astrology, each house is a full zodiac sign or 30 degrees, regardless of where the cusp falls in the sign. In a whole housing system, each house is assigned a single zodiac, and the first house starts at the degree of the ascendant. It does not account for the curvature of the Earth, which can affect rising time of signs. And if you want to get even more complex, when you go in to make your chart in Astro, so you go in, you go to user profile, you find yourself or whatever, and you go to extended chart. And so I'm putting in the full moon as the 9th. And then there's all these different choices. So I'm honestly not sure what happens if you put default, but I always go to Placidus. And then for the first chart that we're looking at, I selected tropical and it just kind of defaulted to geocentric, but there's also heliocentric. And then you see there's sidereal, and then there's also draconitic. I'm not going to discuss that today, but it's just all these different ways of explaining the same thing, because as we might all be accustomed to knowing, I don't know why that sentence came out so long, astrology is an energetic language. So for those of us who really like astrology, we can probably just look at this wheel and tell several things intuitively, because it is an energetic language that predates Christianity. So it has a very rich history. So again, tropical, sidereal, geocentric, heliocentric. So geocentric is traditional. The Earth is at the center, and the sun, the moon, and the planets orbit around it. Whereas heliocentric, the sun is at the center and it interprets the planetary positions or aspects from the sun's perspective. So if you want to look at the sun's perspective, look at the heliocentric. If you want to look at the Earth's perspective, look at the geocentric. And I feel like anybody who loves astrology and anybody who really loves working with their intuition, have fun with this website and just kind of like look around at different things because they're all true. You know, your Western tropical chart isn't more true than your sidereal chart. It all has truth in it. It's just going to depend on the different nuances. And there are all kinds of different kind of categories and stipulations for the different kind of energies that come through according to the different types of astrology. When you get to sidereal astrology, there's also something called an ayanamsa, Ayanamsa, and it's a corrective system. It's the difference in degrees between the tropical and sidereal. So you may have heard some people talking about how Western tropical isn't strictly speaking correct because it doesn't actually rely on the positions of the constellations in the sky. Now, I don't necessarily share that particular viewpoint, but it's okay because I'm here for all of it. But what I do think is that much like when we come into this life, from my perspective, we have kind of like default programming is what I'd want to say. Like fear is here to keep us safe, things of that nature. Like we have certain default programmings, or maybe you could even think of it as like your fated life. I feel at this moment in time that Western tropical astrology has more to do with kind of like how you came in as an earth being, and it's more of like your template body, if that makes any sense. Whereas at this point in time, I think the best way that I could explain, just from my own personal research with my particular chart, that I resonate a lot more now with my sidereal chart. So for example, in Western Tropical, I'm a Cancer sun and a Cancer rising. I feel like very much when I was younger, before I really understood that my emotions were a tool, that very much resonated with me. But now that I feel differently about things, I kind of feel more aligned with, actually, I do feel aligned with my soul's journey. I almost feel like your sidereal chart is like, I don't necessarily want to say your soul blueprint because I feel like that is a little bit too fixed for me, but I feel like it represents more of like your life once you turn off the default programming, if that makes any sense at all. Because so in sidereal, at least using the Fagan-Bradley ayanamsa, I am a Cancer sun still, but I am a Gemini rising. And that makes more sense to me because if someone were to ask me right now what my 4 elements were, astrologically speaking, energetically, I would say I'm mostly water, second air, and then some fire and some earth. Because for me, the idea of something and the thought of something is just as good almost every single time as the physical manifestation of it. And in fact, physicality and the need to always be doing something aren't things that really are super important to me. Whereas someone who has, you know, a lot of earth in their chart, perhaps they're like my husband, for example. This is another good example because in Western Tropical, he is a Gemini sun and a Scorpio rising. However, in sidereal, he is a Taurus sun and a Libra rising. And I very much see both of those sidereal qualities in him more now than in the past. Because in the past, yes, for sure, very much more of that Scorpio rising and Gemini sun. Anyways, going off on tangents, but if you've ever worked with me before, you know that I do this. And I feel like sometimes that's really where the beauty is in the tangents, because it's going to spark something that, you know, we hadn't thought of before by going off on these tangents. Okay, so basically when you get here and you want to make your wheel, you put in the date, and I put in the date of the full moon. Just for funsies, because I actually haven't done this yet. Let's see what happens when I do just the normal tropical chart with heliocentric. And we'll show the chart, we'll add the transits. And again, this is, oh, okay. So interesting, it doesn't separate the houses as much, but so this is my other chart. Wow, that's way different. So maybe we're not going to conquer that today, but I do think it's really cool. And where does it even say that the moon is? The moon is in Aquarius. Okay. But the sun, because this is from the perspective of the Earth. Oh, I see. Okay. So I had not done that before. That's what I love about astrology too, is it's like everybody is not interested in everything. And I feel like for good reason. And I talked to my son about this too, because if we all like the same things, then the Earth wouldn't really go around, or however you want to say it. So I love astrology. And what I love about it is it changes. We change with it. We can see the reflections of ourselves changing in it. I mean, I've had people that I've worked with before done a beautiful reading, and then they let me know a few hours or a few days later, oh, I didn't have my birth time right. And then we go in and we correct the birth time. And that's still true also. It's hard to explain, but what I'm getting at is that astrology, I feel like, is this wealth of information that never really dries up. I mean, yes, we can understand all the concepts and everything like this, but there's always going to be different nuances. And that is a good pivot point for me to start talking about sidereal astrology, or the sidereal zodiac. It's based on the actual positions of the constellations, based on the precession of the equinoxes, and it does account for the Earth's slow wobble. I'm not going to go a whole lot into detail about that kind of stuff. I don't know if it was still even sharing, so I might have been pointing at a bunch of stuff. Oh well, it is what it is. Oh, I actually did not want to look at this yet. Hold, please. Let's share this. This is what I wanted to share. Okay, because we might be going back to that. Okay, this is perfect. Now I can see myself and everything's good. So I know that you guys can see this now. So sorry about that. So of course, here we are with the tropical zodiac. The moon is in Aquarius, opposing the sun. So these three right here, these three bars up here, have three different ayanamsas. So the difference in degrees between the tropical and sidereal. They're corrective systems, and there are a lot of them. The ones that I have up here, only three of them. I have the Lahiri, which is usually used, oftentimes used in Vedic or Hindu astrology, along with the Raman and the Krishnamurti. And then the Fagan-Bradley. I feel like Fagan-Bradley, for Western astrologers who are using sidereal, most Western astrologers do use tropical. However, I feel like a lot of them are kind of moving over. So if you're using Fagan-Bradley sidereal ayanamsa, it's important to note that if you switch to using the Hindu or the Lahiri ayanamsa, there's a 0 degrees 53 minutes difference between that and the Fagan-Bradley. And then there's even another ayanamsa that employs the works of Alice B. Bailey and DJ Khul. He's also called the Tibetan. Alice Bailey and some others in Theosophy channeled him, and he's someone who's come to me for a very long time in this journey to work with him. So I find that to be very interesting, that that's another aspect of astrology that I can work with. So the reason why I'm saying that is because this one right here is the Fagan-Bradley. This one right here is the Lahiri, or the Vedic, or the Hindu, generally speaking. And then this is the Master Khul. And so, for example, when we look at this guy, it even says that my sun is at 0 degrees of Cancer, whereas my tropical sun is at 28 degrees of Cancer. My sidereal in Fagan-Bradley is 3 degrees of Cancer. and 4 degrees of Cancer with the Lahiri. So there's going to be all these different nuanced differences. Let's see. There's also some astrologers out there who really feel that the most accurate ayanamsa is based on Spica or Ravati. So it's just a matter of perspective. It's just a matter of a lens, just like everything else when we're talking about consciousness. It's a matter of the lens of perception that you're seeing your world view through. So with most types of astrology, or with astrology, we have the housing systems, right? And I did go over the difference between the whole house and the Placidus. Most of the time, Vedic astrology uses the whole housing system. And remember, that's the one with the 30 degrees. Each house is a full zodiac sign, regardless of where the cusp falls in the sign. And I'm only mentioning that because the Vedic astrology also employs something called nakshatras. So a nakshatra is a lunar mansion. It's constellations that the moon occupies at the time of birth. It describes the quality of a planet's energy, and there's 27 divisions of the zodiac. So there's nuances of the planet's influence, and each planet rules 3 nakshatras. So if we are looking at the full moon, so again, we take the sun and the moon are opposing each other, and I believe this is meant to be around 22 degrees of Capricorn, and it falls into this lunar mansion or nakshatra that is called Shravana nakshatra. So nakshatras focus on the quality of the planetary energy, whereas the house focuses on the area of life where the planetary energy will be expressed. So I feel like they're both important. And in Vedic astrology, they do employ both. So again, the houses represent different areas of life and show how the planet's energy will be expressed, whereas the nakshatra focuses on the quality of the planetary energy. So Shravana nakshatra is the 22nd lunar mansion, and the symbol is the ear. It's ruled by the moon, associated with Lord Vishnu, and the element is the Akash. So it's also important to note that the Shravana nakshatra is what's known as a divagana, which is a benevolent, harmonious, and it has a very big focus on spiritual growth. So when you think about that in the constellation of Capricorn, that's kind of interesting, right? And then when we throw in the fact that Mars is opposing, I'm going to get it wrong. I always do this. Mars is opposing Saturn, that can indicate right here, like this says. So I'm very good at kind of sussing out the intuitive based portions of astrology, but sometimes, especially when I'm in kind of like the zone like this, where I'm doing a little bit of channeling here and there, the facts and figures just leave my mind. But that's okay, because we can always look them up. So, and I feel too like the things that resonate for us more, the things that we remember more, and I feel like there's a reason for it, because we've probably spent lifetimes working in these areas. So it's almost like our soul's like, it's not necessarily important for you to know all the labels and categories and things like that, because what's really important is that you trust yourself and you allow yourself to be guided to the information that feels the most resonant to you. Okay, so the Shravana nakshatra, again, is the 22nd lunar mansion. The symbol is the ear. So the whole vibe of this particular full moon is going to be learning, listening, wisdom. And then, of course, it's ruled by the moon. This particular lunar mansion is ruled by the moon, which is associated with Lord Vishnu, the preserver, protector, and the balance restorer. So that does make me think of like that opposition between Mars and Saturn, right? And it's like Mars, Saturn, Capricorn, like they all kind of have that same type of energy. And I don't know about everybody else, but the greater part of, for sure, last week was spent on really tightening up boundaries, closing portals in my energy where there were old energetic trespasses where kind of like my life force was being not kept to be revolving through me, if that makes sense. So doing a lot of work with energetic boundaries, right? So that kind of really makes sense to me. And then, so the Shravana Nakshatra has this deep connection to knowledge via listening, the ear. And then again, the element is the Akash, which we could also consider to be synonymous with the ether or space. So we think of vastness, potential, the ability to perceive and understand. So I would say that listening is a form of expression. So a lot of times when I'm doing reading about myself, this card will come up, the throat chakra. And because the throat chakra is all about expression, but it's not just about talking. It's about listening. Not listening with the intent to respond, but really like multidimensionally listening and allowing this to all kind of diffuse through your body. Okay, I listened. And there's different kinds of listening. Like rewind a little bit to where I was talking about the way that I feel my energetic makeup is. Mostly water, a little bit of wind, or mostly water, then wind, then fire, then earth. So, yeah. Trying to think what else I was just going to say. All right, so let's take a look. This is my Fagan-Bradley sidereal chart. And again, we're looking at the outside here. We're looking at the planets on the outside, the planets and points on the outside. So here we have our Saturn in Pisces. And then opposing it is the moon. And Saturn is retrograde. Huh. So if we have Saturn, let's see, look at this. All my water, my air, earth, fire, right? That makes sense to me because I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I don't even have all of the planets and points up. Like I don't have Spica or Rigel or any of those other ones up. I don't even have Lilith or anything like that. I basically was really wanting to kind of hone in on the full moon energy and just look at the differences between the different types of astrology, talk about the different housing systems, just the subtle nuances, but also like I really just wanted to kind of focus on the energy of the moon, which is really cool when you think about the Vedic astrology and the nakshatra that it falls in for this particular full moon. So we're just going to kind of look at these charts, kind of let them fill in. So here's the Djwal Khul, the Tibetan. This is his chart. And again, we have Capricorn, full moon. And this is really cool too, because this is what's known as esoteric astrology. So again, just a little bit of fun. I am by no means a master astrologer. I don't know how many lifetimes that would take, but I do know that, and I know that I've lived several lifetimes, right? My specialty is really on working with energy. And that's why I feel like the emotions and the mind component of it really makes sense. Because when you think about manifestation, the earliest parts of energy are your thoughts, right? And the emotion. You make that thought form. You give the thought legs, so to say. And right now, with the nakshatra being ruled by the moon, I just really felt like it would be so cool for us to kind of talk more about the moon and then do a little visualization where we either visit the moon or become part of its consciousness for just a few moments, whatever feels comfortable. Of course, when I close my eyes and go into full channel, it may look differently than what my intention is on it for right now. But so let's just go over some scientific theories of the moon's origin. And in the spirit of being completely transparent, where am I? I did use ChatGPT to help me with the different viewpoints of the history of the moon. So let me pull this up. Okay. So scientific theories. Scientific theories of the moon's origin. So 1, the giant impact hypothesis, which is the mainstream view. This is the most widely accepted theory. About 4.5 million years ago, a Mars-sized planet called Theia collided with the early Earth. The impact ejected a massive amount of material into the Earth's orbit, which coalesced into the moon. This explains why the moon's composition is so similar to the Earth's mantle. Symbolically, this suggests the moon is Earth's mirror and twin, born from a great trauma or cosmic event. 2, the fission theory proposes that the moon was once part of the Earth and was flung off due to Earth's rapid rotation. Off. This would mean the moon was born directly from the Earth, like a divine daughter or a sacred split. 3, the capture theory suggests the moon formed elsewhere in the solar system and was gravitationally captured by the Earth. If this is true, this would paint the moon as a mystic wanderer or an adopted celestial being, not born of Earth, but drawn to her. 4, the co-formation theory. It states that Earth and the moon formed side by side from the same cloud of cosmic dust. This reflects an energy of partnership, shared origin, and sacred dance, like primordial twins or divine counterparts. So now we get to the part where probably most of us are more familiar, at least from my particular standpoint, apart from knowing that the moon worked with the tides, because, I, like probably a lot of people out there, really kind of wanted to be a marine biologist for a while when I was a little bit younger. So apart from that, I didn't know anything about the moon. And I do know that there are some people who refuse to do full moon ceremonies because of the history of the moon. And you know what? I'm here for all of it. I think it's cool to just look at everything from a different perspective. If you hold the viewpoint that we all fractal from source energy in order to become more intelligent, well, then it's okay to entertain every single thought about the moon and its origin. And it's okay to, let whichever one behooves you be the one that, quote unquote, distracts you. Because I do kind of have like a mantra that at this time that I pretty much live by, and that's that the very fabric of our very universe is that of unconditional love. And every single thing that is not unconditional love is a distraction. It's entertainment. It's meant to make us think. It's meant to expand our consciousness. So we get to choose, by what we pay attention to, what we're going to be entertained by. And that's pretty much how I want to kind of introduce this particular part of the session. So the moon as an artificial object. Some esoteric thinkers and fringe scientists propose the moon is hollow or constructed, possibly by ancient advanced beings. The moon's size, placement, and effect on tides and fertility is so mathematically perfect that some believe it's intentionally engineered. This aligns with the idea of the moon as a watcher, amplifier, or consciousness modulator, placed for a reason. So if this was something that I allowed to distract or entertain me, then yeah, I could see why I would not want to have any type of a ritual around the full moon. And that's beautiful and that's perfect if that's what's for you. There's also the Sumerian and Gnostic perspective. So in ancient Sumerian mythology, beings called the Anunnaki may have played a role in celestial engineering, including the moon. Some Gnostic texts view the moon as a veil or a portal, potentially used by archonic forces to recycle souls, or more benevolently as a gateway for soul remembrance. And as we talked about earlier, I don't really even think of the moon in any of these ways. I just think of the moon, at least at this point in time, as a consciousness that I work with when it feels resonant to work with them. And the only reason why I'm saying that is because to me, it's okay, whatever anyone wants to believe. And I even have, like specific teachers that I've worked with in the past that still very much, talk about this kind of stuff. And it's okay. It doesn't bother me. It's like a duck. I just let it kind of fall off my feathers because again, it's not something that I choose to pay attention to because it doesn't resonate for me. If it does resonate for you and you feel very much like you want to pay attention to it, then that probably is for a reason. It's probably something to do with perhaps your purpose at this time or something that has to do with your soul's alignment. Again, I'm here for all of it. So then the next one is the moon as the feminine keeper of memory and womb consciousness. Many traditions see the moon as a living goddess, such as Artemis, Hecate, embodying intuition, cycles, time, and the unconscious. Her phases represent death, rebirth, and transformation, a cosmic mirror for menstruation, emotional tides, and psychic work. In this view, the moon may be an ancient consciousness, not just a physical body, one that remembers all of Earth's history and holds energetic imprints of all living beings. I do feel like a lot of this really resonates. And then it's interesting too, because when talking about the nakshatras and talking about Divagana, the benevolent harmonious with the focus on spiritual growth, being the type of nakshatra that Shravana is, and the fact that Shravana nakshatra is ruled by the moon and associated with Lord Vishnu, the preserver, protector, and the balance restorer, and the element of the Akash. Okay. I like where this is going. And I think that might be part of it too, is like when something for me seems like it's consciousness building and expanding, I'm here for it. When it's something that seems like it's the other way, like it's limiting, constricting, or possibly rigid or fixed or separatist, I tend to not, like I said, not really pay much attention to it. I let it fall off of my duck feathers. All right, so, and then she gave me some ideas. All right, and I do actually like this. So this is what I was thinking last night, because before I do these groups, I usually have an idea of what I want to do. And I usually work on whatever this idea is when I'm in theta before I fall asleep on a Wednesday night before my Thursday morning sessions. And, I just got this idea about talking about the difference of sidereal and tropical and talking about, what does it mean? What is the difference between a full moon in Aquarius and a full moon in Capricorn? And then what is the history of the moon? How do I feel about the moon? How do you guys feel about the moon? And how can we work with this? Do I want to have moon rituals going forward? And if I do, what do they look like? Maybe I simply just want to pay homage to the moon once a month on the full moon, or, whatever you want to, because look, the waxing moon, intention, growth, and building, the full moon, illumination, harvest, peak energy, and the waning moon, release, surrender, death, and of course, the new moon, planting seeds, beginnings, and void space. So, and for me, I'll be honest with you, it really just depends on the energy of the moment, whether I put a whole lot of stock into any of this. Like, because I've had several new moons that I felt were very much about closing and endings. But then again, what precipitates a new start is a closing and an ending. So, and all of us kind of have our own different rhythm and our own different assimilation of time. So nothing's right, nothing's wrong, everything's beautiful. And I really love entertaining all of the different nuances of the different perspectives. But getting back to what I was saying before I started full on rambling, I do want to go into this visualization space, which we'll begin here in just a moment. And I'm not sure exactly what will happen, but part of my intention for this exercise was for those of us that feel comfortable doing this, because again, whenever you're in this space with me, you do what feels best for you. So whoever feels best, communicating with the moon, holding hands with the energy of the moon, maybe even embodying the consciousness of the moon for just a few moments. That's what I'm looking for. So if you're into it, hang tight. We're going to stop sharing here and we're going to get ready to do the visualization portion of today's journey together. And so when we're doing the visualization, I would recommend you have water. I would recommend that you have a blanket if you tend towards getting cold. And I always, always, always recommend that you have a notebook, particularly your favorite one, and whatever kind of pen that you like to use. Oh, it's interesting. I got a lot of green going on today. My ring light just turned green. I'm drinking a green Perrier, the lime version, so double green. And then I picked the green pen to use today. So even though today very much feels like it's about expression, I feel like it might be emotional expression. And then when we're thinking about the moon and we're thinking about the sidereal aspects, especially the Vedic aspects where we take in those lunar mansions and the nakshatra, right? I want us to communicate with the moon, whatever that looks like for you. So if everybody's ready, I invite you to slowly allow your eyes to close. And usually before we go into these visualization spaces, I just want us to make sure that we're fully in our body. Because again, I welcome any person's way of doing things. But for me, I don't leave my body when I do meditations. I stay inside my body. It's very important to me. And I allow whatever's a frequency match to come to me and meet me. I do not go out and find anything. So what I do is I fill up my whole body with my own energy. And I do this by the power of my voice. I fill my physical bodily energy with my own authentic energy. And I just picture that. And today it's looking like a big white pitcher of thick water. I don't know why it's thick, but that's just what it looks like. It has a lot of bubbles in it. So maybe it's like my Perrier. And we're pouring it into our crown and we're watching it bubble and fizz from our toes, through our feet, our ankles, our calves, our shins, our knees, back of the knees, shins, back of the thighs, the sides of the thighs, up through the buttocks and the pelvis and the womb space and the hips and the lower belly and your sides, and the lower back, all the way up through the rib cage and the abdomen and the chest and the shoulder blades, clavicle areas, shoulders, descending all the way down our shoulders through both of our arms and out our fingertips, and then allowing it to just fill to the point of overflowing. And we're just going to let it overflow for a bit, because while we're filling, this picture represents our authentic energy that we're filling up our physical space with. And once we're at the point where it's overflowing, not only have we just filled our energy with all of our own authentic energy, but we've also given the boot to anything that isn't ours, anything that's old, outdated, hidden, hiding. And we can place our hands on our hearts and say, I pay tribute to you, I honor you, I acknowledge you, and I now release you because you are no longer mine. All right, now we're good. Now I would like for you to either place your feet on the floor or visualize that your feet are on the floor. Feel your chair or whatever you're sitting or laying on underneath your sits bones or the base of your backbone. And I just want us to breathe a few times here and imagine our feet have, the way I'm picturing it now is like those TENS pads that you put on when you get like a EKG, but it's like those, but they're on the palms of our feet, the soles of our feet. And you can picture this as intricately as you would like, whether it's just one big one or a bunch of little ones, but it's basically connecting us down through all the layers of the earth into the earth's core, and visualizing that in as many spaces and places from your body to the core of the earth as feels good to you. I like to do it from like my root chakra area, the very end of my backbone, And then sometimes there's just some strands that come out from my vertebrae, the back of my neck. And today I'm feeling it in my ears. And then we can put the palms of our hands on top of our upper thighs, or excuse me, our thighs near the knees. And again, whatever feels good to you guys, you don't ever have to do anything if it doesn't feel good to you. And in fact, if you're just listening to my voice in the background or even muting it and doing your own thing, that's perfect. That's perfect. You're perfect just as you are. Thank you for being you. Okay. So now that we are grounded, we have taken up our own space in our body. Now we're going to just claim the energy of our energy body. And I almost see this as like one of those glass domes. It's almost like a fish bowl, but it's upside down, and make it as big as you want. And it's going over your energy body, okay? Like over all of your aura, over all of the subtle bodies of you. And we're going to do the same thing where we're just going to breathe with the intention of I fill my energy with my own authentic energy. We're just going to breathe and allow for this to happen. It should not take long. Fill up all of our energy space with our own energy, which again, not only just, really takes up all of our space, but also boots out anything that isn't ours. If there's any stragglers or anything like this. All right. Big inhale in, hold it, and exhale out. All right. So now I want you to get completely comfortable. If you would like to join me in the version of the meditation where you're not leaving your body, how I do it is I open up a visualization space in my heart portal, and that is where the visualization stays. Of course, it's formulated somewhere in my mental realm, yes, but it doesn't leave my bodily space. And in fact, it could even be like you have your hands open in your energy orb under your fishbowl in your own orbit, however you want to describe it, and it's happening there. Whatever comes to you and feels good to you is perfect. Okay. So now let's just take a few moments here. I want you to focus on the words that I'm going to say from a multidimensional perspective, which means, yes, use all of your 5 physical senses, but allow your extra perception senses to also come through, all of your subtle senses. I want you to think about the moon. I want you to fill your belly with the energy of the moon. What does this feel like to you? If the moon could tell you some things, what would they say? Again, I want you to fill your belly with the moon. Whatever this feels like for you. And remember, when we think about our belly, we think about our solar plexus, our authoritative center, our center of will, of boundaries, of self-acceptance. And whatever the moon is conveying to you, I want you to consider for yourself also. Is the moon providing you with advice? We are going to take some time independently now, 4 minutes. And this can be however it occurs to you. You can simply commune with the moon. You can bring her out of your belly and place her in your hands and speak with her. She's coming through to me as a she, which is not important. However, the moon comes across to you as perfect. But I want you to communicate with the moon. I want you to give advice to the moon, allow the moon to give you advice. I want you to ask the moon, if it's something you want to do, if it's something that feels good to you, may I please merge consciousness with you, even for just a moment. So the exercise, when I start it, I'll let you know. The exercise will be 4 minutes, 4 minutes, independent self-work with the consciousness of the moon. And again, if none of this feels good to you, that's okay. You can simply just breathe into your body or do whatever else feels good to you. Or you can even ask the moon to come to the very outer parts of your personal orbit and talk with them there. Okay. All right. So 4 minutes start now. I will be back in 4 minutes with the sound of my voice. Please enjoy. All right. We have about 30 more seconds left of our 4 minutes. So whenever you're ready, go ahead and say goodbye to the moon, at least for the purposes of this exercise. thank them, let them know how much it means to you to be able to have this direct communion with them. And I do want to say that if it feels good, maybe you can energetically like hold hands, so to say, with the moon, or kind of keep this direct line of energy with them through the full moon on Saturday. So maybe perhaps, through Sunday morning or something like this. And it just means that you have your thoughts and your consciousness a little bit on the moon, where I feel the moon is very misunderstood. And from my perspective, the best things in life always are. I talk to my son about this on almost a daily basis. Not everyone's meant to understand everything. Not everyone's meant to understand me. Not everyone's meant to understand the moon. But I do feel like what a beautiful dialogue we can have from this lens of understanding. And not in a way that it's like you're going to change your mind about anything necessarily, but just that it's allowed for other perspectives to exist and for us to be okay with that. The energy that I was feeling from the moon in my particular exercise was very much that. And of course, mine came through with more of like an emotional lens, right? Like the feeling of being misunderstood and how it can kind of limit us if we let us get it down. Or we can take it from another perspective and say, I'm misunderstood. Some of the best things in life are. I don't need to prove anything, but by me being my full authentic self, even though I'm being misunderstood in some capacity, I allow other people that perhaps often feel misunderstood to do the same. And so I do want to close today's exercise. If any of you are still in meditation and you want to stay there, that's beautiful. When you're ready to come back, you can do so however you choose or in the way that I'm describing now. So for those of us who want to come back now, I simply start moving my physical body, my toes, my ankles, my legs at the knee, twisting at the torso, playing the piano with my fingers, moving my neck, my arms, the shoulder and at the elbow and at the wrist. And I really just love placing my hands on my cheeks right before I open my eyes. And we're back. Thank you very much for joining me. Until next time, it's been a pleasure.